In the deep woods of the Rhine Valley, the ghosts of legends haunt the forest, and the screams of their V12s can still be heard echoing late at night. Hi, and thanks for joining us for round 1 of the Missed Apex Formula 3 Challenge as we travel to one of the world's most legendary circuits, the Hockenheimring. From brake-burning hairpins and tire-chopping chicanes to the hair-raising high-speed Turn 1, the drivers will be brutally tested from the moment the lights go out. To get us underway today, please give a warm welcome to your commentator, Chris Stevens.
It gives me great pleasure to say that the Missed Apex iRacing F3 Cup is back. Welcome everyone to Season 6 of our esports franchise. We started in the MX-5s, moved on to Formula Renault and then the F3 Cup. Now in its 3rd season with new drivers, new circuits and a new feature race format, but more on that later. My name is Chris Stevens. Big welcome to this curtain raiser at Hockenheim. And I'm also happy to say that I'll be joined intermittently throughout the night by Mr. Richard Spanners Reddy, who's with us now. Hey, Spanners.
Hey, I'll be joining you whenever I can, not during the races, and also because I'm circulating and practicing around the track, you might hear the odd pause and holding of breath, because I've realised that I hold my breath in the braking zones while racing, Chris.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's, definitely something. I've never thought about that, but... Yeah,
it's only when you try and talk when you do it and you suddenly go, oh, I don't breathe properly when I'm racing.
Wow, always great to get those kind of insights. You just don't get that anywhere else, do you? We're into the final 20 minutes of free practice before qualifying. Let's head trackside and see what is going on. There is the reigning champion, Danny Henney, currently in the top 5. He's in 5th place in this practice session at the moment. Just give you an update on what's been happening. It's Gregoire Gomez setting the benchmark time of 1 minute 30.8 at the moment, with Kyle Power, Bradley Philpott and Luca Harrison and our reigning champion Danny Henney inside the top 5 at the moment. This is the last 18 minutes of free practice. After this, we will go into a 10-minute open qualifying session, and then we will have 3 races to create a round of the championship, a 27-minute feature race with a mandatory pit stop, new for season 6, and then 2 top 20 reverse grid races. And Spanners, I'm sure we'll get into the details of all that later and all the new things that are happening in season 6. But firstly, it just feels good to be back, doesn't it?
It's nice, after last season there was a lot of competition up at the front end with Danny and Kyle, and it felt a little bit binary, as it can do in a championship. But this season, I think there's 4, 5, 6 people who, if they start strong, could be in contention. I think the young guns this season are going to be a big danger to Danny Henney, and he's feeling it. He's putting on extra practices, he's really kind of assessing the competition, but I think he's looking at Luca Harrison, who will appear as Solon on the timing screens, and also Luke Power, who is the nephew of our panelist Kyle Power. They're both just racing with just such abandon. They have the freedom of youth, Chris, to go and win or bin.
Yeah, Luke Harrison, we can see there, actually running right with you.
Yes, I was trying to let him by. If I ever see him in my mirrors, I just stay nicely to the side. I'm not really racing those top guys there. I've been put into platinum this season as the gold champion. I'll just drop that in the class system we have here. I've got no realistic chance of winning the championship, but I'm one of those drivers that can get a result if they pick their battles. And with this feature race and the pit stops, I think there's people like me, some of the older hands, that have got a chance to pick up consistent results.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about Luca. Actually, was the best driver in qualifying last season. 3 pole positions, are half the pole positions available throughout the season, beating Danny Henney, which of course is very impressive, given that he is the reigning triple champion, it must be said, from the Formula Renaults and 2 seasons of Formula 3 as well. He's won the last 3 seasons, and he's definitely started to feel the pressure from people like Luca. Kyle obviously gave him a really good run for his money last season, but I think we're in for about maybe 4 or 5 contenders for the title this season, not least our very own Bradley Philpott as well.
Oh, if Bradley Philpott sticks out the season, he is definitely a contender. It's just whether his other commitments will get in the way. But there is a new element this season in that we always did kind of corporate setups. So it was a little bit understeery. You did most of your braking and turning before the apex, and then try and carry the speed through the corner. This season, we've gone for a much racier setup, and that really is unleashing the likes of young Luke Power and young Luke Harrison. These young lads, they just really like to hang the rear end out, get loose, get on the power early, and just handle it and manage it. Whereas in the previous seasons, you were kind of rewarded for preparing yourself through the corner.
Yeah, absolutely. And young Luke Power there joined us for the last 2 seasons the last 2 rounds of last season. Scored a reverse grid podium on his maiden appearance as well. Was mightily impressive throughout the 2 rounds he did, and joins us as a full season contender now in the silver class. So he does have to prove himself before he gets upgraded.
That might change, yeah. That might change.
Yeah, maybe he's been very fast.
But, it's really interesting in sim racing, I think even more so than in, say, karting or low-level car racing, where the risk-reward is a little bit different. So I will go out there and I'll do my race at 95% during the race, knowing that if I push for quali speed laps, which you can do in a sim, there's nothing stopping you, my chances of having a spin are just that much higher. And that's where my 42-year-old brain takes me. But Luca and Luke do not have those. Danny does a little bit. He's getting on a bit, Chris. So that risk-reward equation, I think, will become apparent over these broadcasts.
Well, that's very true, and of course it's not just good to be quick in the feature race. You have to come through the field in those 2 reverse grid races as well. So and that's really where the championships have been won and lost in the past, because Danny has always been probably the best at getting through those reverse grids cleanly. Let's say there have been some hit and miss with the other contenders, but Danny just it's like a hot knife through butter.
But Danny's built himself up a kind of Schumacher-esque persona in this championship, and I've noticed following him through on a reverse grid and I had a word. I yelled at everyone. I said, "Why on earth are you just letting Danny go?" Because everyone's going, "Well, that's not my battle, because that's Danny. That's the champ. I'm not going to fight the champ." So I've been yelling at everyone, going, "Stop giving him such an easy time." But I've noticed when I've been coming behind him through a field, he glides through, and I'm stuck in a battle for 2 or 3 laps that he didn't get embroiled in at all.
Well, plenty of new features for this championship, including the way that the sprint race points are doled out as well. So, Spanners, let's start at the top. The big new thing for this year, pit stops in the feature race, which should add a very exciting strategic element.
It changes the tone of the race, because in reality, in the previous seasons, we've had 3 sprint races, haven't we? And, sort of 11, 10 laps? But this is a 17-lap race, so you do need a bit of patience. You need to manage the heat temperature in your tyres, which is probably new to this series. And also, the pit stop means you're not always racing your competitor on track. Sometimes you're racing them in the relative box, and there's a few different permutations of when it's best to pit.
Yeah, there's been a really interesting sort of debate about whether it's good to go a little bit longer and maybe get a shorter stop at the end because you have to put less fuel in, or is it good to give the tyres a break in the middle of the race? How's traffic going to play into that as well? How soon can you get the gap? We're talking 15 to 18 seconds is the estimate for a pit stop around this circuit. So there's a lot to think about.
There is, and one of the biggest things here is I think we're going to have a 50-car grid today. So if you don't qualify well, the chances are, you're going to have a little ding with your wing and something which would normally completely ruin your race. As long as you don't hit the tow button and request a tow, as long as you manage to limp back to the pits, you will get a fast repair. So if you have lap 1 damage, you're not out of it. You can pit for your new wing. You can have your fuel stop, but that is your only fuel stop for the race. So there's an advantage there, and everyone's aiming for that top 20 from the back of the grid. So even if you have a little ding, you get top 20, you're on reverse grid pole. So that's the first element of it. It's a sort of get out of jail free card for lap 1.
I'm glad you mentioned that the number of entries here. We're expecting about 50. We have 59 who have signed up for the season, and even just in the practice grids, which are about half the normal size, the cars were queuing around the final corner, and I think they're going to be stretching halfway around that Arena Stadium section for today. And the big shift there is that we've moved over to a Saturday race. And that has invited a lot more Americans to join the party as well.
Curse those Americans. But it was specifically to make sure that, we have a great iRacing and sim racing community, and a lot of them are American, and they were left out on the Friday evenings. But so now they're here. There's a few more American names. We've got a normal contingent of Australians as well. And something that's interesting is obviously it takes a long time for their signal and ping to get around the world. So in our community, we know who the Australians are, and we just give them that little extra half a meter space.
Yeah, that's worth doing. As you can see on the right-hand side of the screen, optimal conditions for racing today. 24 degrees virtual track temperature, and barely any wind speed in there as well. So it looks like fine driving conditions out there. We touched upon this earlier, Spanish, the new point system for the sprint races. So it's still 60 points for the feature race win, but we've dropped the sprint race victory points down to 36 from 50. So that's really going to put a lot of the focus now on the feature race.
Yeah, I think the feature race from the top end point of view, the guys who are fighting for the championship, we really felt that the value of that should be higher than, say, somebody who's had a bad race in the feature race and then ended up third on the sprint race reverse. The sprint race reverse is to give the top guys a bit of a challenge coming through the pack, and to have people like me and Colin and Matt Trumpet that 20th place to aim for, so we kind of get a chance for a podium. But we didn't feel that should reflect as much in the points.
Yeah, absolutely. And still the same rules when it comes to drop scores as the previous seasons. It is your 5 best results that are taken, but you cannot take the drop score at the final round. That is absolutely crucial. And for the first time, we have the calendar set in pretty much stone at the moment before we've even got going. So this is a big change from last time.
I've been reluctant in the past to announce all the races, because it means that people go and, we get 1,000 lap Larrys, as we call them, who just go and just practice it to death. But having the schedule ahead of time means people can get spousal credit, let their families know, make sure they're not working. So that should give us a bit of stability throughout the championship.
Yeah, as we see Danny and Carl putting on a little bit of a practice show here in the final moments of free practice. But yeah, we have 2 new venues, Hockenheim being the opener, and we have the Hockenheimring on the 3rd of December as well. We have a returning venue in the form of the Circuit of the Americas on the 25th of February. We'll also be going back to Silverstone and Spa and Interlagos for the finale on the 25th of March. So yeah, very exciting calendar that we put together.
So I did not want Hockenheim first, just because personally I do not get on with this track. It is all about finesse on the throttle pedal and just really feeling that grip in the front, and that just doesn't suit me. So I'm already calling this Droppenheim from a personal point of view. I think this will be my drop round. I love those big open circuits though, like Spa, like Kota, like Silverstone. And Interlagos is really only in there because Kyle Power hates it, and it's just we wanted to put it in twice just to upset him.
It has not been a great circuit for him. He has won round there in the past.
No, he's not been. He just hates it. I don't know why he's got something against it, but for me, as a F1 fan, Interlagos has been just one of my favourite tracks of all time. But in this series in general, I love having the F1 tracks because people turn up, mostly the listeners to F1 podcast, Missed Apex F1 podcast, you would think are F1 fans. So to sit here in a single-seater, in VR or on your triple screen monitors or whatever you've got, and race around the tracks that you see on TV and that you know and love, it really is, it's a dream, and it's a dream to do it in such a community where everyone is invested. It's not a community of randoms. It's our listeners getting together, racing with the panel, and just really kind of looking after each other. The thing we say to everyone is, ruining someone's race should be a worst case scenario, and it is. You can feel it if somebody just launches into someone and wipes them out by accident. You can feel like, oh no, that's the worst. I did not want to ruin your day today.
Well, as much as I am enjoying watching Danny and Kyle going absolutely hammer and tongs in this practice session, and hopefully is foreshadowing of events to come, Let's take a look at this Hockenheim circuit. 4.57 kilometers or 2.8 miles, all 17 turns of it. And Richard Molden went out earlier this week to guide us around this track.
Welcome to the glorious Hockenheimring. My name is Rich Molden and I'm part of the race control team of the Missed Apex Formula 3 Cup. Hockenheim isn't the speedfest it used to be on the old configuration, which is now sadly largely forest, but we have quite the challenge for our competitors this round on the modern configuration. I'm going to talk you through a lap of the circuit on board with Richard Spanners-Ready, last season's Gold Class champion. Out of the final corner for the run down to turn 1, the Nord curve. This is going to be 5th gear in the race when you're running on your own, but it could be dangerous 3 wide at the start of the race as people try to be a first lap hero. Huge curb on the exit which you can go over somewhat, but go too wide and you'll get an instant point for exceeding track limits. Approaching turn 2, 2nd gear right-hander, an overtaking spot, but you've got to be well alongside to make it stick. Also likely to be spicy for the first lap or 2 of the race. And onto the back straight, which is technically turn 5 for Parabolica. You want to get within about 0.6 seconds for a toe and 0.3 if you want to be sure to get that overtake done. And you've got to be really careful not to rear end somebody coming into the braking zone here due to a loss of downforce. So we're coming into turn 6, the Spitzke hairpin, really tight, an evil sausage curb on the outside which will unsettle or even damage the car, and you'll see spins there as people are too heavy with the throttle. We're now going into turn 7 that's flat, and then the Mercedes grandstand corner, a 2nd gear left-hander. It's very easy to lock up and run wide here. 9 and 10 now are flat if you've got the line right, and it's a short run down to the Mobile 1 right-hander. This is going to be a lift, maybe a slight dab of brakes. Really crucial to hit the apex here, and be careful not to take too much curb, which can easily spin you back across the track and into your fellow competitors. Sachs curve here, left-hander 2nd gear, don't go deep, there's no grip on the outside and you'll be in the barriers. And now we're flat, coming up to the final complex. Down a gear, carry as much speed as you can onto this exit of the final corner Sud curve, using as much curb as possible on the outside, and there's your lap. It's a technical track, precision is key, and there's lots of places where you can make mistakes, especially when you're trying to make an overtake. This first round is going to be quite the challenge for the Miss Apex field after the off-season. Bring it on.
Here you can see the current layout of the Hockenheimring that has been used since 2002. Some would say that it's not as good as the old layout that used to scream through the nearby forest, but personally I love the modern layout of this circuit, and I think it makes for absolutely fantastic racing. We've had some classic Grand Prix here over the years, and I hope we're going to see some classic action in the F3 Cup tonight. 2.5 minutes remaining on the clock before we go into qualifying, which is going to be, I think, absolutely fascinating, because we have maybe 8 different contenders for feature race victory, and depending on how qualifying goes, it's going to massively change how their races play out. Here we have Gregoire Gomes, who's been promoted to gold for this season, and you see him with the French flag on his livery, the red, white and blue stripes across his car, looking absolutely fantastic. And he was a very rapid contender, has had a few incidents across the races, but no less had a fantastic amount of speed, which he's hoping to harness and have fewer incidents to take his take the fight to the gold championship for this season. And you'll notice that different numbers now depending on which class each driver is in. So numbers 1 to 10, that is for the platinum drivers. So Danny Henney is the reigning champion, running the number 1. Kyle Powell, second in the championship, he's running the number 2, so on and so forth. Then we have the gold drivers running numbers 11 through 99, depending on where they finished in the championship. And then the silver cars running in the 100s up to 149, and then anything above 150 are the newcomers to the championship, the rookie class, most of which are in silver. But of course we have some people like Bradley Philpott, for example, who technically didn't really compete in last season, did one round at the end of the season at Spa, but he's running a rookie number, which is number 200. So hopefully that'll help you be able to identify what the class battles are happening, because we do have some very intense fights going on for the gold and silver championships. I think 14 drivers were still in mathematical contention for the silver championship going into the Spa finale last season. A quick hello to our live chat room. Thank you for joining us. We are live on the Missed Apex Motorsport YouTube channel. If you haven't already, please remember to subscribe, ring that bell so you're notified for when we go live, and be sure to like this video as well. It helps us out more than you can possibly imagine. And of course, if you haven't already subscribed to the Missed Apex F1, our main channel, we will be live tomorrow night 8 p.m. UK time as usual for a mailbag episode with myself, and our video editor Steve Amy will be joining Spanners and Trumpets to read some of your questions. Checkered Flag is out for free practice, and we are into the 10-minute open qualifying session. And here you will see the flurry of cars exiting the pit lane, all going to be squabbling over track position. It is Lucas Raskovitz in the bright yellow number 12 car who is leading the field out. Gregoire Gomez second in the queue, followed by Alexander Dobertsberger as well. And track position, absolutely key. You can sneak a cheeky little slipstream in these sessions, but it's only 10 minutes on the clock, and it's not as much time as you'd think to be able to get a lap in. We're looking at a 1 minute 30-ish lap time, and if you make a mistake, you could well lose the optimal time to set a lap. Of course, these cars have a bit of a peak in performance with the tyres. They take a little bit of time to come in, and then after that they can overheat very, very quickly. And in this 10-minute session, we should just be able to reach the peak of the tyre. So look out for the best laps coming in around lap 3 or 4 for these top runners. There is Danny Henney, the reigning champion. Get a good look on his rear wing there. You can see the Triple C sticker that he's put on for this season. Triple C being the triple champion. Kyle Power was hoping to make it his own triple of karting and sim racing victories among the various Missed Apex events that we have been running throughout last season. Alas, it wasn't to be. And here we can see the mind games already starting to come in. Cars are bunching up, trying to make the gap so they can get a clean run through. And it looks like Danny Henney has been able to do so, just behind Alexander Dobertsberger on the track. And Henney comes in for a flying lap. We're on board with him as we fly through the Nord curve into turn 1, running a bit wide onto the curb there, and I think you can just about get away with that in terms of track limits. Worth reminding you that you get 12 incident points per race before you are given a stop-go penalty, so that's for things like track limits violations, loss of control, and of course for contact as well. And if you get 12 of those points, you will get a stop-go penalty. First sector times coming in, and unsurprisingly it's Henney who is setting the pace, but Bradley Philpott through the first sector, a 1,000th of a second behind Henney through these first flying laps. One of the cars just running a little bit wide there. That looked to be one of the yellow and white cars. I think that was Sam Watley. Although, no, Sam Watley isn't racing this weekend. He's off racing real race cars at Cadwell Park. So not quite sure who is in the yellow and white car. That's very similar to Watley's. On board with Brad now through the Mobile 1 curve into the stadium section. Second sector times looking very good as well for both of them, although Brad lost a few tenths of a second in that middle sector compared to Henney, who still seems to be setting the benchmark pace at the moment. Through these final 2 corners, very tricky couple of corners, particularly that penultimate turn as you reach the crest of the hill. The first lap times coming onto the board now, and it is Danny Henney with a benchmark time of 1 minute 31.6. Bradley Philpott lost half a second in the end across that lap, so it was super close in the first sector, but the time really dropping away in the second and third sector. Kyle Power goes into third at the moment. He is at 1.2 seconds off Henney. Henney has come out of the box absolutely flying in the opening minutes of qualifying. but still 6 minutes to run, and we expect the lap times to come down. We were into the high 1 minute 30s in free practice, so a little bit of time still to be found. And actually, it looks like Henny is catching up to the traffic now. He's closed up on Alexander Dobbelsberger, so he may well, at some point, either have to pass him and abandon a lap, or go for a cool down and abandon a lap. And it looks like he's getting held up already on his second flying lap. So we saw he was able to create the gap, but he has closed up really, really quickly. Got a couple of the silver drivers in the mix at the moment as well. Alex Smith in 4th place overall, and then Alex McBride, the reigning silver champion, who's gone up to gold for this season. We see Philpott getting very, very close to the back of Dobbelsberger into the final couple of corners, really being held up now, and he's still not passed. And a new benchmark time set by Gregoire Gomez, 1 minute 31.4. Luca Harrison now goes top into the 1 minute 31 threes. So he's got the benchmark time by just 32 thousandths of a second to Henny, who did lower his benchmark by another couple of tenths of a second. It is 44 thousandths separating the top three at the moment, and that is just fantastic. So Henny wasn't getting held up so much on that lap. He might be on this one. We're on board with Harrison now, our provisional pole sitter, the best qualifier from last season, getting a great tow there behind Lukas Raskovic, who's abandoned the lap. There we see Henny making the pass on Dobbelsberger, so this lap is pretty much done, I think, for him. And Harrison at some point may well have to contend with the traffic of Dobbelsberger as well, who incidentally is 6th fastest at the moment. Pole position battle last season predominantly between Henny and Harrison, and it was Harrison who came up 3-2. It was Alex Jonesma who claimed the 6th and final pole of the season with a rather well-timed slipstream from Spanners, actually. And so he got one pole position there. And Bradley Philpott, the only other pole sitter in this championship. We've only had 4 because, well, Danny Henny's taken the bulk of them, with 7 across the 2 seasons so far. But right now he's 2nd fastest at the moment, and I don't think this lap is going to be an improvement on his 1 minute 31.4. Gomez lowers the benchmark once again. It's a 1 minute 31.2 at the moment. Philpott now half a tenth of a second down on that. He's into 2nd place. Harrison did low. Oh, Henny spun there on the exit of turn 2. He's facing the wrong way. We just caught it there as we were riding with Bradley Philpott. Henny, a very suboptimal lap developing here. He just got past Dobbelsberger and into clean air, and now in the final minutes of qualifying, he's got it all on the line here. So Gregoire Gomez provisionally on pole position. This would be his first in the F3 Cup. Philpott joining him on the front row as it stands. Harrison and Henny and Power is the top 5. Here we are with Philpott, and he's right behind Harrison. Going into this, the Mercedes-Benz Arena. Incidentally, our top drivers in this session at the moment, pretty close together, because there is Kyle Power just in the background as well, currently 5th fastest. But what can Philpott do on this lap? Round the Mobile 1 curve, he is currently 53 thousandths of a second off the provisional pole time set by Gregoire Gomez. On board with Philpott, there you can see the M4M sponsorship on his car, and he'll be live streaming his own perspective of this as well. Through the final corner now, we see him wrestling with the steering wheel through that final corner and driving up towards the timing line, and he did not improve on that last lap. It was a 31.5, so remains 2nd fastest at the moment. Less than 2 minutes remain, so coming up to the final couple of laps now. Henny has made it over the line, so he will get 2 more laps in. And there we see Harrison closing in on Dobbelsberger again. Philpott closing in on Harrison as well, actually. So just an update on our provisional pole sitter. The last lap for Gomez didn't count, so he's exceeded track limits somewhere or had an incident. He's got 2 incident points, so that would either suggest he had a moment or went off the circuit. Either way, it didn't count, but he's still on provisional pole position as it stands. 1/4 of a second separates the top 5 of Gomez, Philpott, Harrison, Henny and Power. And it's just as close as we were hoping and expecting looking at the practice races. It's been very, very close. We've had a lot of contenders for this one. And right now it would be one of the gold drivers taking the overall pole position. And this is the brilliance of the class system, because we have seen the speed of some of the gold driver contenders, but they haven't necessarily been able to string it all together. New fastest lap by Gregoire Gomez, though. He does a 1:31.1 and extends his advantage for provisional pole position to 1/10 of a second. So practically doubled it, and he's in the pits. He's in the pits, so he's not going to be setting any more laps, but we've still got a few seconds left on the clock, and Philpott, Harrison and Henny are still going. So they've got one more opportunity now to try and take pole position away from Gregoire Gomez. He is on provisional pole. It would be his first in the championship. Can one of these drivers deny him? Here we see Harrison through the hairpin. Is he getting held up by Dobertsberger there? That is the crucial thing. He'll be getting a slipstream through these straights, but is he going to get held up through the Mercedes-Benz arena and through the stadium section at the end of the lap? That is the crucial question. Philpott might be the perfect distance away, and now we see, I think Harrison is getting held up here. We see the difference in lines there through the Mercedes-Benz arena. Into the Mobil 1 right-hander, a fantastically fast corner, and you see it running right up to the limits there. Was that exceeding track limits? I think it might just have been right on the edge. We'll see if this lap counts when he gets to the timing line. The checkered flag has gone out for qualifying, so this is the last gasp effort. Who is going to be on pole position for the opener in Season 6? Harrison drives towards the timing line, doesn't improve, it's a 31.4, so he remains third fastest as it stands. Henny coming up towards the line as well. Philpott's time didn't count, so he remains in second. What's Philpott got? Lowers it to a 1:31.1, but it gets deleted, it didn't count. So he did improve his time. It wasn't quite enough to beat Gomez, I don't think, just to a couple of hundredths, but the time's been deleted. He remains in fourth. Gregoire Gomez has got his first pole position in the F3 Cup. And he did it in the pit lane. Well, the drivers returning to the pit lane. It is Gregoire Gomez and Bradley Philpott on the front row of the grid. Harrison and Henny on the second row as well. Now, is this Harrison still on a flying lap? I don't think he made the checkered flag, so I'm not sure if he's pushing still, but I think he did make the flag. By the way, we only have 10 seconds left on the timing tree anyway, so yeah, Gomez on pole position for the first time. That's the gold pole position as well, so Philpott technically getting the platinum pole position, and in the silver class, I'll just look to find it's kind of way down. I believe that went to CJ Barry in 15th place overall. But the grid is being set now for round 1 of season 6 of the Missed Apex iRacing F3 Cup. Gridding up then for the first round of a brand new season of the Missed Apex iRacing F3 Cup. Gregoire Gomez on pole position on the right-hand side as you look at it in the red, white and blue, the national colours, running the tricolor on his car. And it will be Bradley Philpott in the green and black car on the left-hand side, sharing the front row with him. Luca Harrison and Danny Henny on the second row of the grid, followed by Kyle Power and his nephew Luke Power on the third row of the grid. Then it's Alexander Dobertsberger and Callum McIntyre from driver 61 on the fourth row of the grid. Alex McBride, the reigning silver champion, moved into gold, and he's in 9th place ahead of Tim Ellis that completes the top 10. Stephen Williams and Alex Van Gien ahead of Richard Spanersready, Ishmael Basso and the silver pole sitter CJ Barry on his debut in the championship, followed by Jose O'Donnell, Mark Greenhow, Alex Smith, James Caswell, and Taro Tylers. That is the top 20 for this feature race. 17 laps await of the Hockenheimring to kick off a brand new season of the Missed Apex iRacing F3 Cup. A new format with pit stops to come. They will have to make a mandatory stop for fuel at some point in this race. We await the lights. The grid is formed. Gomez versus Philpott. Gomez starting on pole position for the first time in a feature race in the F3 Cup. All 5 lights are on. And we go green for a brand new season. It looked like a very good start by Gomez. He's got the clean run into the Nord curve for the first time. Got to watch out for Philpott on his inside. Looked like a very clean start up at the front of the field. Philpott slow off the first corner, and that gives Luca Harrison a run to the outside, coming down towards turn 2. Power and Henny waiting in the wings. Didn't look like a great start for Luke Power from the 3rd row of the grid, but Kyle, the uncle, up into 4th place ahead of Henny. So the top 3 is as you were. Gregoire Gomez with a nice advantage, actually, coming out of turn 2, down the parabolica, and Philpott is going to be the one watching his mirrors for Luca Harrison down into the hairpin for the first time. It's a big stop coming down here. This is going to be the crunch spot as Harrison looks towards the inside. Philpott has to give him plenty of space at the apex, but manages to hold position just about. Harrison not through with him yet. He's going to be right in the slipstream all the way down to the braking zone of turn 8. Music to the ears of Gregoire Gomez, who is going to be stretching his legs, hopefully, and trying to build a gap while the cars behind him squabble. But a very clean start for the first lap of this brand new season. No rustiness in these guys. Thankfully, with all the practice races that they've been doing throughout the week, they've learned all the lessons of how to avoid the carnage at the first corner. It's Gomez who leads Philpott, and Harrison and Power and Henny in 5th place. Through the stadium section for the first time, Harrison just reminding Philpott that he's there, not easing up on the pressure, and Henny into the pits at the end of the first lap. So that is a dramatic strategy. He'll be in completely clean air, I would have thought. If the whole field passes him by, Henny is going early. That is very interesting. So his aim is going to be to try and overcut, do a massive undercut on everyone else. But after one lap of racing, not sure how that's going to pan out. Well, we'll see in about 16 laps time. So lap 2 of 17, Gomez leads by just 3/4 of a second to Philpott. Harrison waiting in the wings as well. Power still there in 4th. That's created a bit of a gap back to Dobertsberger, who's now in 5th. Callum McIntyre up in 6th place in his first race in the F3 Cup. And Tim Ellis there in 7th place, coming under pressure from Alex McBride, who's running a new livery. You can see the Scottish flag on his car, the reigning silver champion, putting pressure on Tim Ellis, one of our previous championship contenders. Stephen Williams and Ishmael Basso in the top 10. I'm being told that Danny Henny was given a penalty. He was given a stop-go penalty for a jump start. That is unheard of. For Henny to make a mistake like that is the most un-Henny thing I've ever heard or seen. That is extraordinary. So a disastrous start to the reigning champions' defence in this opening round of the season. Unbelievable. So back up to the front of the field, Harrison, we saw making just a little bit of a mistake on the exit of the Mobile 1 corner, dipped 2 wheels into the gravel. He's currently in 3rd place, but he's just started to lose touch there with Philpott, and wide again through turn 1 this time. And this is going to be great news for Kyle Power, who's just closing in on the back of Harrison's car, down in towards turn 2. Philpott's created a nice little safety net there to Harrison, so the mistake's starting to creep in, and this is what we were saying, the young guns, they're very, very fast, but they go a little bit gun-ho sometimes, and here's Power closing up in the slipstream, does not make a move into the hairpin. So is he saving fuel there as we ride on board with him at the exit of the hairpin? Of course, that is an absolute strategy where you can be saving fuel, try and run a lap longer than your rivals if you're happy to just sit in position there. But Oh, another little mistake there from Harrison. He goes wide in turn 8, just shuts the door on Power there. And I think if Power is trying to save fuel, he's got to go for it now, because I think he's starting to lose time. Back into the stadium section. Harrison running that consistently wider line on the exit of that corner. And we see two very different lines through the Sachs curve there. The banked corner in front of the grandstand. But it's closing up very nicely for the final spot on the podium at the moment. Race leader Gregoire Gomez comes across the line to start lap 4. He leads by 9/10 of a second to Philpott. Then this battle for third place that we've been watching. Fastest lap of the race by Brad Philpott there. So closed up the deficit ever so slightly. He was, I think, a couple of tenths quicker than Gomez on that last lap. Power once again in a good position here, although Harrison, I think, got a much better run through the first corner at that time, and he's nowhere near as close as he was to Harrison on the previous lap. Just behind them, Alexander Dobertsberger and our newcomer, Callum McIntyre from driver 61, having a good battle, and Ellis and McBride behind them, still going wheel to wheel into the hairpin. That's great stuff. McBride in a new class, as we mentioned, but here, Dobertsberger and McIntyre. Dobertsberger still running that classic black and white Ace of Spades car. Callum McIntyre running the black, green and red on his number 201 car. This is the battle for 5th place, as one of the cars running a bit wide on the exit of turn 9 there, and I think that was Stephen Williams in 9th place. He's not had the best start. Of course, was one of the contenders from last season right up until the last round, where he couldn't race, unfortunately, and because of the rules, you can't take the drop score at the last round. He ended up missing out massively, but now is putting the pressure on... Oh, we've got a spinner there. We've got a spinner, and that's Callum McIntyre. Callum McIntyre at the final corner, and I think he's collected Tim Ellis as well, actually. So down at the final corner, it is Tim Ellis down there with McIntyre. Here's a replay of what happened coming into the final corner. Gets on the curb between the penultimate and last corner, and Ellis had nowhere to go, smashed into the side of him. That's so unfortunate for both of them, and for McIntyre, his debut in the Missed Apex iRacing F3 Cup comes to a bit of a premature end. Now look at this for third place. Power much closer to Harrison this time around, still not making a move down into the hairpin. Of course, that moment for McIntyre has sort of released Dobertsberger. He's not worrying about what's in his mirrors now, and he can try and focus on closing up on this podium battle in front of him. It's still McBride behind him in 6th place. Ishmael Basso in the gold class has risen up the order as well. He's in, actually just been passed by Stephen Williams, so he's down in 8th place. And Van Gien and Spanner's running in the top 10 at the moment. They're 9th and 10th respectively. But here we see Basso through the Mobile 1 curve. He's just been passed by Stephen Williams. He'll want that place back. This is, of course, a battle between the classes, because... now for third place, I think we've had a change, because Harrison got a bit caught up behind one of the back markers. I just saw him running wide off the circuit, and that has allowed Kyle Power to go through into the podium places. And, of course, Dobertsberger waiting eagerly in the wings as well. That's Ellis coming out to the pits. He's being lapped now by the front runners. And Power now in a very stable third place, actually, as Harrison's dropped a whole second on Power. Did he pick up damage there while he was rounding up that back marker? Dobertsberger looking towards the inside, down into the hairpin at turn 6. Nothing doing, though, as they round the tightest corner on the circuit, lap 6 of 17. Still got the pit stops to come, so this order could still shake up. On board with Dobertsberger as he looks to the inside into the Mercedes-Benz arena, and putting Harrison under big pressure, because that's another mistake made by the youngster. And Dobertsberger really trying to find a way through now, looking up the inside of Mobile 1, just trying to distract Harrison, but Harrison is mightily fast through that right-hander. Brilliant speed he's carrying through there, and that has created just a bit of a safety net there. over Dobbelsberger for the next few corners. I don't think he's got to worry about that black and white number 5 car as they when they exit turn 2 and go down the Parabolica. Through turn 1, bumping over the curves, plenty of... no, was that Power there getting a little wide out of the first corner? I believe it was. So we're talking about Harrison making mistakes. Power's now made a mistake and put Harrison right back on his tail. So this battle for third place, far from over, and all this squabbling has really allowed the top 2 to get away. 2.6 seconds now between Power and Philpott, the second and third placed cars. Lead gap stretching up, but here's Harrison looking towards the outside, going into the hairpin. Power's covering the inside. Harrison will try and get the old up and under and get the switchback for the better drive out of the corner. He has just about 2 wheels on the grass there, absolutely nose to tail now through turn 7. Power once again covering the inside as they head into the Mercedes-Benz arena, and there's no way through for Harrison, but this battle for third place is absolutely on once again. Harrison showing his nose once again, trying to force another little error there out of Kyle Power, and well, normally I would say good luck trying to get Kyle Power to make a mistake. Is he the back end stepping out there once again? Now, the racier setups that we've got on these cars for this season, maybe not suiting Power here just as much. Running in third place at the moment, but we're starting to see a few little mistakes, so the tyres starting to cry enough. That will be the crucial thing when it comes to the pit stops, letting the tyres cool down for a little bit, and it's still absolutely nose to tail for third place. Harrison not having a look up the inside of turn 2. He's going to try and get the run out of here through this left-hander and onto the Parabolica, although Power got a rather good run out of the corner. 4/10 is the gap. Is that just going to be enough for Harrison to close up and maybe just get Power thinking under braking for the hairpin? Cannot afford a mistake down there on what has got to be one of the trickiest braking zones of any circuit on iRacing. Gomez setting a new fastest lap of the race, by the way, the gap up to 1.4. So Philpott not able to do anything about Gomez up at the front of the field at the moment, but for third place, it is very much on. Dobbelsberger waiting patiently in the wings, going to try and pick up the pieces if these two start squabbling. There we can see Tim Ellis at the front of the shot, a lap down. Not usually a position we would see him in, but there he is, contact with Callum McIntyre a few laps ago, put him down there. Just give you an update on Danny Henney, by the way, who has been roaring back through the field, and he is into the top 20, I believe, although I've just lost him on my timing screen. Oh no, he's not into the top 20, excuse me, that was just a glitch on my timing screen. He's currently in 35th place after taking that stop and go penalty for a jump start. A disastrous title defence so far for him, although we're only on lap 9 of a whole season, so fully expecting Henney to come back from this. Of course, his goal tried to be to at some point get into the top 20 and get himself a good grid start. Here's Spanners up in the top 10 at the moment. Alex Van Gien just in front of him, getting very close for third place meanwhile, and Harrison for the first time getting a proper look up the inside of the hairpin, but still nothing doing by the time they get to the apex. So that was as close as it has been so far between these two for a change of position. Of course, Harrison started out this race ahead of Power. A little mistake rounding up one of the back markers put him behind Power. But he's absolutely piling the pressure on the man who was second in the championship last season. Both of these guys very accomplished race winners in this championship. Power with 5 wins to his name, Harrison with 4, a multitude of podiums to go with it as well. 2 of the absolute finest races this field has to offer. You see one of the back markers there just getting into the grass there, a moment for one of them, and all of these just distractions as Harrison comes into the pits. So he is the first of the front runners, I believe, to make a a racing stop. Obviously, we've seen Henny in, but that was for a stop-go penalty. It looks like Ishmael Basso behind him has come in as well. So Harrison, the first of the front runners to come in. How is this going to play out? He'll stop on his marks, get a fresh load of fuel to see him through to the end of the race. On his way already, just 2 seconds stationary time. Now, how is he going to emerge? Is he going to cut out in clean air? This is going to be the crucial factor. It's pretty good, but he's come out behind CJ Barry, who was the pole sitter in the silver class, emerges in 12th place there. And actually, CJ Barry, the man who is now second in the silver class, because Tero Tylers has taken over the front on that class. But this is crucial now. Harrison's got to pump in the laps. He will have cooled his tyres off a little bit, and I'm told that is really what's making the difference when it comes to these pit stops. The undercut is very powerful. So long as you come out in relatively clean air, you can get the hammer down with the cleaner tyres. There we can see the positions gained and lost throughout this race so far. Certainly not looking much like the grid we saw. Power now coming into the pits as well from third place. The two leaders have carried on. So it's Kyle Power coming in, reacting, I'm sure, to what Luca Harrison was doing. Stops in his marks just about there. And we see plenty of the other cars coming in as well. Alex McBride and Alex Van Gien have come in as well. Power exits now. Now, where is he going to come out relative to Harrison? Here comes Harrison now with a better momentum, and Harrison is ahead. Harrison with the undercut there, working absolutely to plan. And that is the power of strategy, and this is exactly what we wanted to see with these new feature race pit stops. Now, Power, he's got cold tyres here. Is he going to be able to get a momentum here? He's in the slipstream. Harrison's got the job done in terms of track position. He's got to fight to keep it though, and I think Power here is sticking behind him. Now, we saw him do this last time out. Oh, getting very close to Harrison on the brakes there, but of course last time out at Spa he was just sitting behind Philpott waiting for his moment. I think he's maybe accepted that the top two are out of reach, and he's going to wait for an opportunity to present itself before he passes Harrison later in the race. But we've had a pit stop between these two cars, and still pretty much nothing separates them in what is a battle for the net third place at the moment. So fascinating to see how that is going to unfold later in the race. Here you can see Harrison and Power have come in, as has McBride, Basso and Van Gien behind them. Colin Ward's been in as well, and Alex Smith, but nothing from the top seven just yet. Lap 12 of 17, so we're into the final 6 laps of this race. Still no action from our race leader Gregoire Gomez or from Philpott in second place. Of course, the pit stops has promoted Alexander Dobertsberger into third place. Stephen Williams is there in fourth, and Richard Spanner's already up in fifth at the moment, yet to make a stop. Jose O'Donnell and Tero Tylers, the silver class leader, there in seventh place overall. And now look at the gap now between the top two. It's almost up to 2 seconds. So Philpott really has no answer here for Gregoire Gomez's pace. The last time around, Gomez pulled another 0.2 of a second on Philpott, the double VLN class champion, our resident racing driver at Missed Apex. And Gomez, well, this is exactly what we know he can do. He has been brilliantly fast in the various races he's done in this championship. Made far too many errors, but so far he's been doing an absolutely perfect job. And Philpott coming into the pits. Gomez has stayed out. So at the end of lap 12, Philpott is in. Now, is he going to be able to try and claw any kind of an undercut here into that 2 second margin that Gomez had? There is Mike Stoner in the red car. We see just leaving the pits. A magician by trade and hoping to magic up her results. And Philpott, that was a very quick stationary time. Just 3 seconds there. Wow. And he comes out in... that's not ideal because he's got Jose O'Donnell in front of him. I think he would have preferred to try and come out ahead of O'Donnell there, and that is for position. And then we see in the background still very, very close between Power and Harrison for 8th place. Just in the back of shot, still Power refusing to make a move. We see this time and time again, and that gap to Philpott has closed up ever so slightly, but of course they've now got the actual traffic in front of them. That's Tero Tylus is the car in front of them, the silver class leader in 7th place overall, who's ahead of these two cars. And of course they've got to try and pass them on track. This is the risk you take with the earlier stop, that you are going to be caught up in a little bit of traffic. Meanwhile, the race leader has come into the pits. Gregoire Gomez from the lead into the pits. His advantage was 2 seconds when Philpott came in, and deciding that that's not his pit box, waiting to see the lollipop man. Obviously we can't see it, but that's what Gomez will be seeing. We see Dobertsberger behind him has come in as well, and that was a good stop there. It was 0.4 of a second slower though than what Philpott did. Remember, the gap was 2 seconds. Where is Philpott? Not close enough. There is Philpott in the green and black car in the background. And if anything, that advantage has gone up. So Gomez did a flyer of an in-lap there. That was fantastic because the gap is now 3 seconds. Gomez, with 4 laps to go, he's got this in the bag. It's all starting to shake out now in terms of the positions. Pretty much everyone making their stop at this point, although we're yet to see Ishmael Basso in 8th place there, so I'm sure he'll drop down the order at some point. It's getting very close again for 3rd place. Here we see who has come in. So Ishmael Basso not in yet, as we mentioned, but pretty much everyone else inside the top 20, with the exception of Alexandros Marafkani, one of the newcomers in the silver class there in 19th place at the moment. How's that shaken out behind the top 3? Still got Alexander Dobertsberger there in 5th place. Alex McBride doing a fantastic job at the moment in 6th place, actually in his first race in the gold class. Stephen Williams, Alex Van Gien and Spanners Ready still inside the top 10 as well. I'm sure they'll both be bumped up a place as well when Basso comes into the pits. And there, it's actually very close at the moment between Spanners and Van Gien. Might they show us a little bit of action in the closing stages of this race? And Spanners, I think, for how much he was expecting things to go wrong in this race, will be very happy if he comes away with a top 10 finish, and will be even happier if he gets to beat Alex Van Gien as well. Through turns 2 and 3, Spanners in the slipstream there of Van Gien. Is he going to have a run, I wonder, down into the turn 6 hairpin? To the outside he goes, and into the hairpin, very late on the brakes, trying to go all the way around the outside, but Van Gien, that was a little bit aggressive there, and Spanners had to turn out of the corner at one point, but he managed to just about make it round. Now, what has happened to Gregoire Gomez, our race leader? I just said he had it in the bag, and on the timing, he's completely disappeared. So something has happened to our race leader, Gregoire Gomez, which is unbelievable. He had this in the bag. Now, I don't think he's not in the pits, so he's not had an accident, I don't think. Maybe some sort of technical issue. He's had an internet dropout maybe, or a steering wheel a hardware failure. But I cannot believe it. With just 2 laps to go, Bradley Philpott is now in the lead of this race, and our race leader from the word go took his first pole position, led this race brilliantly, and he's out of the race. Well, now we have, with 2 laps to go, Philpott leads by 1.2 seconds to Luca Harrison. Kyle Power now promoted to the podium placings. But I cannot believe what has happened to Gomez. I mean, we'll try and find out between the end of the feature race and the beginning of the first sprint race what happened to Gregoire there. But your heart could just go out to the Cambridgeshire-based Frenchman. So Philpott now on course for his first victory in the F3 Cup. That might sound surprising, but he has only ever done 2 rounds of the F3 Cup, and both of them were at Spa. They're the first ever F3 Cup race, and the one before this, the season finale from last season, was on the podium in the feature race last time out at Spa, but this will be his first victory, and well, inherited, one might argue. The white flag has gone out. This is the final lap of the race, and Harrison with the fastest lap of the race there, 1 minute 31 flat, just took 4/10 out of Philpott actually. Looking at the gap, 6/10 of a second. Is there one last twist in this tail, I wonder? Philpott is going to have to keep it very neat and tidy around this final lap to make sure that Harrison doesn't get a run on him, but I think if he gets through these next few corners safe and sound, he should be safe from an attack from Harrison. Once we get out of the Mercedes-Benz grandstand, there's not really a realistic overtaking opportunity available, although when has that ever stopped Luca Harrison from making an overtaking attempt? Answer, it absolutely hasn't. Final few corners of this race, the gap has really come down. It's less than 4/10 of a second now. Philpott is going to have to be on rails through this final sector, or Harrison will have a run at him. Here's the corner that Harrison's been super fast at, although just dig 2 wheels into the gravel there. Very nice on the brakes, locking up though, and I think if there was an opportunity, it's gone now through the final couple of corners. He's having to defend though through the penultimate corner. This could be a drag to the finish line if Philpott isn't careful. Towards the timing line we go. Harrison runs out wide, but for Bradley Philpott it is going to be victory in round 1 with the feature race, the first race of this new season. The Missed Apex iRacing F3 Cup Season 6 goes to Bradley Philpott. Luca Harrison, less than 2/10 of a second in the end there, gets 2nd place, and Kyle Power is on the podium. That was a super close finale, one that we were not expecting, it must be said. That was fantastic stuff. Let's get Brad Philpott into the commentary booth and have a word with him. Hopefully Brad can hear us, although I think he's going to be distracted by his own stream at the moment. So hopefully if he hears us, he'll have a word with us. But that was a very entertaining start to a brand new season of the Missed Apex iRacing F3 Cup. There we see our race winner, number 200, his first victory in this championship. And it feels bizarre to say that. They can see new sticker on the side of his car, Hunting Henny. Well, Henny was not the one he was hunting in this race. It was Gregoire Gomez, but whatever happened to him was great news for Philpott. Fantastic stuff in the end to take the victory. Of course, we'll start from 20th place in the next race, the top 20 reverse grid sprint race. And I can tell you now, on pole position for that race, it will be James Braid, with Danny Henny starting on the front row of the grid. So Henny did what he needed to do, got himself into the top 20, and has a great shout at victory in the feature race, in the sprint race, I should say. As the cars make their way to back to the pits, and unfortunately, I don't think we're going to hear from Philpott in this session, so we'll try and get him for the sprint. Let's take a look at the results then from the feature race. of round one of the Missed Apex iRacing F3 Cup. Bradley Philpott takes his first victory in the championship. Harrison and Power on the podium. Dobertsberger and Alex McBride there in the top 5, followed by Stephen Williams and Ishmael Basso. Alex Van Gien and Richard Spanners ready well inside the top 10 there in 8th and 9th, respectively. Jose O'Donnell in 10th place. Then Colin Ward, he had to rise up through the order to get to 11th. And then the silver class victory going to Tero Tylers there in 12th place, just ahead of CJ Barry, just 0.4 of a second separating them in the end. Luke Power, not sure what happened to him on the opening lap, but he plummeted down the order, recovered to 14th in the end. And Alex Smith in the top 15, followed by Colton Myers. Then we have Ryan Sedgwick and Lucas Raskovitz, followed by Danny Henney and James Braid. Now take that order and flip it. That will give you the top 20 for the sprint race. And there we see Matt Trumpets there in a very nice 26th place in the end, rounding out a 51-car field. Was Jonathan Turfboer on his debut in the championship. And he won't thank me for mentioning that. So we're going to take a short break before the sprint race. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.